Welcome to the Weaver Sews. I'm Daryl Lancaster. I've almost finished my sleeveless summer shirt. I have created an inseam button placket for a front opening, attached the buttons, completed the handwork for the hem, and we just need a collar. I do want to take a minute to mention the fix I did for mismatched shoulders. There wasn't enough fabric in the width of the cloth to cut the front and back garment sections with a matching shoulder. At first, I accepted this compromise as, you can't always get what you want. But as I sewed the garment together at the shoulders and side seams, the mismatch really bothered me. So I resorted to my old standby of shoulder epaulettes to create a design element and camouflage the mismatched shoulder. I created a video on how to draft an epaulette and attach it in the video on seams. That link is below. I'm using the neckline from my 700 or 1700 tunic pattern. So the collar from that pattern will fit the neckline for my summer shirt. The collar pattern has you cut 2 on the fold. That will give you an inner and an outer collar. Since the outer collar will be cut from hand-woven fabrics, typically you would cut 1 and then flip the pattern for the second half. And because I wanted the coloration of the warp to mirror on both halves of the collar, I actually created a center back seam. Make sure to transfer all the match points to the collar section. To reduce the bulk, I chose to cut the inside of the collar from a heavyweight linen instead of the hand-woven fabric. When the collar rolls open at the neck, the linen will show peeking out from the wrong side, as in this tunic. And in the case of the shirt, the inner collar will coordinate with the shoulder epaulette. There is no rule that says that the outer collar can't be cut from coordinating fabric and the inner collar cut from the hand-woven. You get to choose. I've gone ahead and interfaced the outer collar. That's the one from hand-woven fabric. I'm using the linen for the inner collar. I turned up the long straight edge, the one with the markings on it, 5/8 of an inch or 1.5 centimeters, and then I pressed. To reduce bulk, trim the seam allowance down to 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter. With right sides together, pin the 2 collar sections along the curved, unmarked upper edge. Though this is a simple collar to sew, the challenge is to get the curved shape of the 2 collar fronts to match. I used tracing paper and a tracing wheel to replicate the shape of the outer curve of the collar fronts from a piece of a manila folder. This will act as a stitching guide to keep the 2 fronts identical in shape. We will be stitching the 2 sections of the collar together, starting at the front neckline, following the curve of the manila template along the top, and back down to the other front neckline. Grade the seam allowances by trimming the inner collar seam allowance to 1/4 inch or 6 millimeter and the outer collar seam allowance to 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter. You'll want to notch out the curves to reduce bulk. Take small V-clips in the seam allowance just around the curve of the collar fronts. And clip the seam allowances periodically across the top of the collar to release. Turn the collar and give it a good pressing. You'll want to look and make sure you're happy with both fronts and that the curves match. With the right sides together, pin the outer collar section to the neck edge, matching the dots, shoulders, and center back. Remember, pin what you know and make everything else fit. Carefully stitch the neck from front edge across the neckline to the opposite front edge. Check to see that the front necklines line up. Again, grade the seam allowances to reduce bulk. Trim the collar seam allowance to 1/4 inch or 6 millimeter and the neckline to 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter. Press the seam towards the collar. A tailor's ham can help with the curve. Pin the remaining collar edge to the collar seam line, matching dots covering all seam allowances. Hand baste in place. I like to hand stitch the remaining collar edge to the neckline, but you may opt to top stitch, like I did in this tunic. If hand stitching, use a simple slip stitch to anchor the collar edge to the neckline. This simple stand collar finishes off the neckline of a garment with a front placket, like I've done here, without adding bulk at the back neck. The perfect solution for a summer shirt. I'm Daryl Lancaster for The Weaver Sews.